you need to pay attention to this chart right here. Do you see this bounce right off of this white line? This is a fresh close, and Bitcoin was on the brink of disaster, and it was faced with its biggest challenge so far in this bull run, and our momentum was at a standstill, and we needed something to happen. Because look, if we look at this white line, anytime our momentum dropped below this white line, the top was already in and the bloodbath was in full effect. If you look in 2021, drop below this white line, top was already in, bloodbath followed. Next cycle, drop below this white line here, top was already in, bloodbath followed. Next cycle, right here, 2018, drop below this white line, top was already in, bloodbath followed. But what happened in the next cycle, 2021? We plummeted with our stochastic RSI, our momentum plummeted all the way down to this level and bounced right off of this white line, only to have a very short recovery. And then the top was in, it fell below, and the bloodbath started. Is that what is about to happen to Bitcoin? Or could we potentially do something that is unprecedented? We've never had a large bounce off of this white line in the midst of the bull, and now Bitcoin is faced with an even bigger test. First step, we bounce from this white line, but what is it going to do next? Because if we roll over with our momentum and fall back through this white line and close below there, the writing is on the wall. So what is going to happen to Bitcoin next? Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Steve. I quit my job over 13 years ago, been traveling the world since, thanks to my trading and investing skills. Join me for sponsorship-free TA with genuine value that actually works. Subscribe. So here we are on the Bitcoin US dollar index, and today we're on the monthly chart. And on the monthly chart, we've got price action above. And what we've gone and done is just highlighted each of the tops. The top in 2021 here, the top in 2013 here, the top in 2017, the previous top in 21, and then we're here in 2025. And what we've looked at and what we've been studying with this chart is our momentum. Our momentum does a very specific thing when we're up here in this golden zone between this yellow line and this yellow line. And typically, when we leave that golden zone, everything starts to fall apart. You see, because in this golden zone, when our momentum reaches above here of 75, in other words, whenever our momentum starts to have a cross up on the monthly chart, that's the start of the bull. And our bull really starts when we get above the 20. So in all future cycles, you can simply close your eyes and you can look at the market on the monthly chart with the stochastic RSI. And whenever that bad boy crosses back above 20, the bull run has started. The problem is every time we get there, nobody wants to believe it. It's just a little secret. However, when our momentum continues to rise and the blue line is on top, whenever the blue line is on top, we're bullish. Whenever the red line is on top, we're bearish. So blue line is on top, our momentum is going up. When we enter this golden zone here, that's when all of the biggest gains are made. It's just a little cheat code for you to have for every single cycle going forward. Because I'll let you in on a little secret. The next cycle for Bitcoin and the one after that, it's going to be more of the same. No hype, just facts. Subscribe and relax. We enter this golden zone here. That's where all the biggest moves are made. When we leave the golden zone, things get pretty bad. Let me show you. Here we are in 2011. We left the golden zone. We had a 93% crash. Left the golden zone in 2013, 76% crash. 83% leaving the golden zone here. As soon as we left the golden zone, that's when the writing is typically on the wall, except for our data point in November 2021. We left the golden zone here. Yes, we had a crash. However, we bounced off of this white line, which is something we just did. So can we pull from what we did back then? Because we know leaving the golden zone is really bad. We know that we have momentum heading down when that red line is on top. But how about when we leave the golden zone and we bounce off of this white line? Could we have some rejuvenated spirit, some renewed sense of bullishness come into the market and overtake the cryptocurrency industry? That is what I want to uncover more with this chart and the facts that we have in front of us. When you look at it, you can see what we've done so far in this cycle. The bull run started officially with this cross here. So as you know, we don't need to even roll the clip. We called the bottom at 15, 16, 17,000. When we crossed here, then it's not up for debate anymore. The bull run has started, and that was in early 2023. And then we entered the golden zone in June 23. Keep in mind, that's when Bitcoin was around 20, 25,000. And we stayed in the golden zone until we reached 70. And then we left the golden zone momentarily, and then we re-entered it on our move over 100,000. In other words, when you look at the price, we made a high, 70,000, and then we made a higher high, over 100. That's not up for debate. That's a high and a higher high. While our indicator right here made a high and a lower high. That's bearish divergence. You can find bearish divergence on a whole bunch of different time frames with a whole bunch of different indicators and a whole bunch of different ways to look at the market. And bearish divergence is just a signal to traders and investors that something is out of balance and something's about to change dramatically. In a nutshell, that's what bearish divergence signals to the market. Something big is about to happen, and because it's bearish, something negative to the downside. From there, that 100K top, we have had some interesting signals come into the market, right? We left this golden zone yet again around 100K, and we just haven't seen the effects of these drops out of here yet. I do want to stress that our momentum started heading down, and it started heading down pretty dramatically and pretty quickly. And as it was heading down, we made a few videos about this topic. And we simply said, look, if our momentum dips below this white line, that's it, right? Looking at the facts, we dipped below the white line 2011, that was it. Same thing in 2013, you get it, 2017 and 2021. We just bounced off of there. So what does that mean? Does that mean we could have this renewed rejuvenation of a bull? Well, one thing I want to let you in on, and this is something that we covered on the weekly chart, but this bearish divergence can continue. Let me show you a chart here where bearish divergence is happening right now in the stock market, and it's been happening for the past 10 years. This is wild. But in the crypto world, when we have bearish divergence, typically it's a couple hundred days apart, and we have 2 data points, and that's it. And that typically marks the top. Okay, it's pretty straightforward, pretty black and white, pretty generic. When you have a different industry like the stock market that's been around for over 100 years, we have a lot of data. And when we have a lot of data, we can look for trends. And when we have a lot of trends, things become pretty clear. You can see from 2015, we made a high here in the RSI, and then a lower high and a lower high and a lower high, while our price made a high and a higher high and a higher high and a higher high. It's obvious, right? Bearish divergence for 10 years in a row. However, we've done this before in the stock market. We did it in the 1950s and the 1960s. We had bearish divergence for, 15 years, right? I just wanted to say, shout out to you if you started following our community during this market cycle. We're building something special. We're building something incredible, and we welcome you in. And especially a shout out to those that have been following for multiple cycles. This is something really special. I greatly appreciate you, and we're going to continue to help change lives, educate people, provide facts in the charts. So in the crypto world, we usually have 2 data points, the high and the lower high. What we could be setting up for here is a 3rd data point where we could have a bounce, we could have a rejuvenation of our spirit, and we could have a move where we technically make a lower high in the RSI and make yet another higher high in price action. That's something to watch out for. We pointed it out many months ago is something to watch out for, because many months ago, I think it was like 9 months ago, we pointed out that it's likely that we were at the time waiting for a weekly stochastic RSI cross. And we simply said, look, when this cross happens, it's likely to bring us to a new all-time high. And when that happens, we're likely to have bearish divergence. In fact, let's just roll that clip. And the only thing that's going to save the day is the weekly stochastic RSI. That has the capability to lead Bitcoin to a new all-time high. The problem is, once we get to a new all-time high, we're going to need to avoid ridiculously strong bearish divergence. That means the weekly RSI has to make a higher high, higher than 88, something that it's only done a few times in the history of Bitcoin. So that's just an example of what we were looking at in the market. And this is probably 9 or 10 months ago, and now it's here. What we're looking at now is we could have the first time in history that continues for a third data point. Bitcoin has never done it. Bitcoin has had bearish divergence a couple hundred days apart, mark the market cycle top in 2 other cycles. No hype, just facts. Subscribe and relax. Keep in mind, Bitcoin has only had 1, 2, 3, 4 other cycles. And in half of them, we had bearish divergence mark the top a couple hundred days apart, which is exactly what we just did. I just want to state that for the record so that you hear it, because some things I say to you, you don't want to hear, because you want me to say, you know what, Bitcoin's going to go to the moon and there's no other option. I'm here to present to you cold hard facts that make you think and that make you use reason and logic and start to analyze the market through a different lens. This makes you a better trader. This makes you a better investor. And this makes you more knowledgeable about what is reality versus let's hope for the best, this thing's going to the moon. So what you see here is a bounce. We have one data point where we've had a bounce, and that's here. In 2021, we had our market cycle top. That's that first top here, not up for debate. From there, we left the golden zone and we crashed. Our momentum crashed all the way down to this white line, and we bounced off of that white line. That's why there's a lot of market structure there, which is why we just bounced from here. This is key market structure, and this is kind of our last line of defense. We have structure there from the prior cycle, and when we crash down to that area, that structure is alive and well, and so far incredibly respected, which is why we bounced from there. When we bounced from there, what we have from our data point before, we came crashing out of this golden zone back in June. And by the time we reached August, we had bounced from that area, but it was short-lived. And then you get a couple months later, and back in January, we're already below that white line, right? So we got a handful of months where things seemed amazing, and we bounced from there, but it was short-lived. So will this time be different, and will this time let us bounce up higher, potentially into this area where we could make technically a lower high, and we could get tremendous amount of momentum from there, and that could bring us to a new all-time high? Or are we going to roll over and this was only a fake out bounce? Leave your comments down below. Hit that subscribe button. This bull run is our road to 500,000 subscribers, but I need your help. Today, tell one person about our YouTube channel, how we spit facts, go against the herd, take no paid sponsorships of any kind. Road to 500,000, let's go.